Welcome back, beautiful viewers, to another deep dive into the glamorous and cutthroat world of Los Angeles fashion, where the drama is always haute couture and the betrayals cut deeper than a tailor's shears. When the digital chime echoed through their luxurious Monaco suite, Brooke Logan Forrester could never have anticipated the sheer magnitude of the devastation contained within a single text message. The words staring back at her from the glowing screen were not merely an update on a fragrance contract. They were a meticulously crafted psychological weapon. Fanny Grayson, the supposedly innocent French fashion enthusiast and aspiring fragrance mogul, had just dropped a bombshell that would ignite a firestorm across two continents. The message explicitly detailed Fanny's new allegiance with Logan Creations and her upcoming collaboration with Hope Logan Spencer. For Brooke, already drowning in the agonizing heartbreak of her daughter's shocking defection and Katie Logan's ruthless corporate poaching, this text was the ultimate betrayal. It shattered the fragile, romantic illusion that Ridge Forrester had so desperately tried to cultivate on the sun-drenched shores of the French Riviera. The Mediterranean breeze suddenly felt suffocating as Brooke's maternal grief transformed into a blinding, uncontrollable fury. She viewed Fanny's message as a malicious taunt, a cruel reminder that her own sister and daughter were actively working to dismantle the Forrester legacy she had spent decades building. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly straightforward corporate defection lay a much darker and more sinister reality. Fanny Grayson was not simply a client seeking a better business deal. She was a Machiavellian mastermind executing a brilliant, highly dangerous double game. Her initial pitch to Steffy Forrester Finnegan for a hope for the future perfume had been unceremoniously rejected, a slight that the ambitious European did not take lightly. When Fanny took her business to Katie Logan, she did not just see a new contract. She saw an unprecedented opportunity to weaponize the bitter, deeply entrenched feud between the Forrester and Logan dynasties. Fanny understood that in the modern fashion industry, controversy is the ultimate currency. By deliberately stoking the animosity between the two rival houses, she guaranteed that her new fragrance line would dominate the global headlines. Every argument, every leaked rumor, and every public confrontation between the warring families would serve as free, highly publicized marketing for her brand. The text message to Brooke was not a courtesy. It was a calculated provocation designed to ensure that the Forrester family would react with maximum emotional volatility. The trap was set with terrifying precision, and Brooke and Ridge walked right into it. Stranded in Monaco and completely blinded by the overwhelming emotional weight of the ongoing family war, the couple found themselves ensnared in Fanny's web of misinformation. Ridge, acting out of a desperate need to protect his wife's shattered mental health and to defend his family's empire from what he perceived as a coordinated Logan assault, allowed his protective instincts to override his usually sharp business acumen. Fueled by the inflammatory details Fanny continued to strategically leak, Ridge and Brooke began making a series of disastrous, emotionally driven business decisions from their hotel suite. Believing they needed to launch an immediate counteroffensive to crush Logan Creations and neutralize Fanny's fragrance launch, Ridge diverted massive amounts of critical funding and resources away from Eric Forrester's highly anticipated haute couture return. He authorized aggressive, poorly researched PR campaigns and rushed production schedules that completely destabilized Forrester Creations' operational infrastructure. The fallout from these panicked decisions was catastrophic. By reacting to Fanny's manufacture crisis, Ridge and Brooke inadvertently inflicted massive financial and reputational damage upon their own company. Eric's haute couture line, already struggling to maintain the spotlight amidst the media frenzy surrounding Hope's defection, was suddenly starved of the marketing budget it desperately needed to succeed. The global fashion press, always eager to smell blood in the water, quickly picked up on the internal chaos at Forrester Creations. Rumors of financial instability and erratic leadership began to circulate, causing longtime investors and loyal clients to question the future of the legendary fashion house. Fanny's information trap had worked flawlessly. By feeding Brooke's paranoia and Ridge's protective rage, she had successfully manipulated the titans of Los Angeles fashion into tearing down their own empire from the inside out. all while her own profile in the European market skyrocketed. Meanwhile, back in Los Angeles, the illusion of victory at Logan Creations was equally blinding. Katie Logan Spencer and Bill Spencer were busy celebrating their massive corporate coup, completely oblivious to the fact that they were also being used as pawns in Fanny's grander scheme. Hope Logan Spencer, still riding the adrenaline high of her successful runway debut and desperately trying to suppress the crushing guilt of alienating her mother, viewed her collaboration with Fanny as a validation of her newfound independence. Hope believed she was finally stepping out of the Forrester shadow and building a brand that was entirely her own. She poured her heart and soul into the fragrance development, unaware that Fanny viewed her not as a respected partner, but as a convenient, highly recognizable face to exploit for a sensationalized PR stunt. Fanny played the role of the supportive collaborator to perfection, showering Hope with praise while simultaneously pulling the strings that kept the Forrester family in a state of perpetual, destructive outrage. However, a manipulation of this magnitude could not remain hidden in the shadows forever. The unraveling of Fanny's European plot began when the inconsistencies in her narrative started to surface. The sheer scale of the media coverage surrounding the fragrance launch, coupled with the suspiciously timed leaks that always seemed to perfectly antagonize both sides of the feud, eventually caught the attention of the very women Fanny was trying to exploit. It was a slow, agonizing realization that crept into the boardrooms of both Forrester and Logan Creations. The breadcrumbs of deceit slowly connected, revealing a horrifying picture of a puppet master who had played them all for absolute fools. The truth hit like a tidal wave. Fanny Grayson had never cared about Hope's vision, Katie's ambition, or Forrester's legacy. She had only cared about elevating her own name by standing on the wreckage of their fractured families. For Steffy Forrester Finnegan, the realization was a bitter pill to swallow. Already pushed to the absolute brink of her sanity by the terrifying, looming threat of Sheila Carter in Monaco and the devastating betrayal of her husband Finn's secret flight pact, Steffy was a woman operating on pure, unadulterated survival instinct. When she uncovered the depths of Fanny's corporate espionage and the catastrophic damage Ridge's reactionary decisions had caused to Forrester Creations, her grief instantly hardened into a cold, calculating corporate fury. Steffy realized that while she had been distracted by the internal family warfare and the trauma of her past, a formidable European competitor had infiltrated their ranks and severely compromised their global standing. The survival of Forrester Creations was no longer just about defeating Logan. It was about eradicating the existential threat posed by Fanny Grayson. Across town, Hope Logan Spencer experienced a similar, albeit far more painful, awakening. The realization that she had been manipulated and used by Fanny shattered her fragile sense of empowerment. Hope had sacrificed her relationship with her mother, endured the wrath of the Forrester family, and carried an immense burden of guilt, all for a venture that was built on a foundation of calculated deceit. The fragrance line she had viewed as her ultimate declaration of independence was actually a Trojan horse designed to exploit her family's trauma for profit. The betrayal cut deeper than anything she had experienced before, replacing her naive ambition with a hardened, desperate need to protect her brand and her remaining dignity. This shared realization set the stage for one of the most unprecedented and shocking moments in the history of Los Angeles fashion. Steffy Forrester Finnegan and Hope Logan Spencer, two women whose bitter, deeply personal rivalry had defined a generation of warfare, found themselves facing a common enemy that was far more dangerous than their hatred for one another. The tension crackled in the air when Steffy and Hope finally met in a neutral, highly secured location to discuss the crisis. The atmosphere was thick with years of resentment, unspoken grievances, and the fresh wounds of Hope's defection. Yet, as they laid out the evidence of Fanny's manipulation, the undeniable truth forced them into an unthinkable position. They realized that as long as they continued to fight each other, Fanny would continue to profit from their destruction. In a moment of breathtaking corporate pragmatism, Steffy and Hope agreed to a temporary, highly volatile truce. It was not a reconciliation, nor was it an absolution of past sins. It was a strategic alliance forged in the fires of absolute necessity. Steffy, fiercely protective of her grandfather's legacy and determined to stabilize Forrester Creations, needed Hope's insider knowledge of Fanny's operations at Logan to dismantle the fragrance launch. Hope, desperate to salvage her tarnished reputation and protect the integrity of her new brand, needed Steffy's immense industry power and media influence to expose Fanny's double game to the global press. Together, they represented an unstoppable force, a unified front that Fanny Grayson could never have anticipated when she first set her trap. The fashion war in Los Angeles had fundamentally shifted. It was no longer simply a battle between the Spencer, Forrester, and Logan dynasties. The arrival of Fanny Grayson had elevated the conflict to an international stage, introducing a level of European ruthlessness that required a completely new strategy. As Steffy and Hope prepared to execute their coordinated counterattack, they knew that their temporary alliance would test the very limits of their endurance. They would have to navigate the treacherous waters of their own mutual distrust, while simultaneously outmaneuvering a mastermind who had already proven capable of bringing their families to their knees. The battle lines were redrawn, the stakes were higher than ever, and the world watched with bated breath as the queens of Los Angeles fashion united to destroy the ambitious outsider who had dared to play them all.